Hello, I'm Octavian, and when I'm not playing Peggle, I spend 8 hours a day watching Family Guy funny moments on YouTube.com.
Oh, well, everybody's heard about the bird. Bird, bird, bird. The bird's a winner. Well, a bird, bird, bird. Bird is a winner. Well, a bird, bird, bird. Well, a bird is a winner. Well, a bird, bird.
Ah, the birds. How I love to watch them. Okay, not really. In my opinion, pigeons are just sky rats, and I'd rather just leave the poor bastards alone. I sure as hell wouldn't want to be creeped on like that if it were me. You know, I especially wouldn't want to get caught playing Peggle.
What the fuck are you doing?
Nothing. Okay, straight to the fun stuff. So, Wingspan was designed by Elizabeth Hargrave, who also designed Mariposas. I'm mentioning this in particular because Wingspan is by far the prettiest board game I have ever laid my eyes on. Everything about this game is just so wonderfully illustrated, and I actually looked into Mariposas simply because I recognized the name. Wingspan is a 1 to 5 player game. That's right, I said 1 again. There's a solo setup, which again is just becoming way more popular with modern board games. If you find a modern board game that says 1 player available, play it. It's worth getting. I promise you don't need somebody else to do it. Games of Wingspan, according to the box, take 40 to 70 minutes. I have some games, depending on the group, taking anywhere from 30 minutes with 2 players to 2 hours with 5 players, so it's really just about the people you're playing with. The objective of Wingspan is to create the perfect bird sanctuary by means of fostering birds. On your turn, you can draw bird cards, lay eggs, gain food, or
Put a bird on it!
These actions all play into each other and are by no means independent. You gain food so you can play the birds. You lay eggs so you can play more birds. You draw bird cards so you can play the birds. You exchange extra resources so you can get more birds. It all comes down to the burbs. So let's go look at the burbs. Each bird card was beautifully illustrated by my new wife, Elizabeth Hargrave.
What the fuck did you just say?
Each bird has the point value that it's worth at the end of the game, the type of nest that the bird builds, how many eggs that nest can hold, the bird effect, what the bird eats, and what habitat the bird can live in. Unrelated to the game, the flavor text is what region the bird lives in, as well as a cool bird fact. And lastly, there's the bird's wingspan. This actually plays a very particular role in some other bird effect cards, believe it or not. Considering that it is the namesake of the game, I'm glad that they could incorporate it to do something. The bird powers are also based off of real-life bird facts. They aren't just randomly thrown on there. Birds that are known to eat eggs out of other birds' nests give you the ability to exchange an egg on another bird that you have already for a food token of your choice. How fucking awesome is that? There are cards like Nest Pest where you lay eggs in other birds' nests. I actually learned some really cool shit while playing this game, and I didn't even realize it until I started doing this review. Wingspan is by far the most well thought out game I've ever played. Okay, you've probably noticed the birdhouse. This is the dice roller. This decides what food you have available to your birds when you use the gain food action, and is represented by the bird food tokens. Dice alert. Okay. I've had to talk about dice rolling mechanics in the past 2 reviews, so I might as well make it a running bit. The dice rolling mechanics in this game, you will be surprised, are very good. Nearly perfect. Similar to Sagrada, the key aspect of dice rolling is that there are so many options to actually interact with the dice that you can do anything just with about anything that you roll. In Wingspan, you can re-roll if there's only 1 type of food left, or lay eggs, or draw a bird card, or do any of the other actions. You can re-roll if there's only 1 type of food left, or you can draw 1 until there's only 1 type of food left, and then re-roll it. You can lay eggs instead, you can draw bird cards instead, you can play a bird instead, whatever. There's so many things to where if you don't like how the roll turns out, you don't have to worry about it. It's not going to ruin the game for you. In most games of Wingspan that you'll play, because of specific bird effects too, you can gain food passively, and even from other players' birds' effects, which in all comes really close to eliminating all of the randomness involved in dice rolling. There are also bird powers that interact with food both in and out of the rolling tray. If there's a particular type of food you want to draft, you can trade in a bird card for an extra token. You know, this applies to other resources as well, allowing you to push off turns and actions that you'll eventually need to get to, but you don't have to do right now. So this is another engine building game made by Stonemaier. So you know it's going to be good. For those that don't know or haven't seen the Scythe review, engine building games are those that have mechanics that pile on as the game goes on until it comes to a screeching halt. Because of how the game progresses, your actions become more powerful as it goes on, and sometimes they even have higher costs. A great example of this mechanic is in Scythe, where you deploy workers. You get to produce more goods, however, it starts to cost you resources like popularity, battle power, and money. You get more of what you need, but at a greater cost as the game progresses. The more effective it becomes, the more it costs you. The snowballing effect of gaining more and more just keeps going until the game ultimately stops for some reason. In Wingspan, the birds build the engine. No, I'm serious. So you always place your action cubes on the leftmost available spot. If a bird is covering it, you just move it to the right and start from there and then work your way left. This activates the bird cards, which can give you more resources or do other cool things for you. For example, if I have 3 birds in the top row, I get 2 food, then I get to activate my bird power, as opposed to just gaining 1 food with no bird power. I have an option to trade in a bird card for an extra food if I want it. There are 4 rounds in Wingspan. Each round ends when all of your action cubes are spent. You have private and public objectives to go for, like Sagrada. These objectives are based on the characteristics of the bird cards that you play, such as what food they like to eat or what environment they live in. You keep track of your action with these cubes, and when the round ends, you put one of your cubes on the bonus tracker for the public objectives. The subsequent round is now 1 cube shorter, making the first round the longest and the last round the shortest. This is a really cool dynamic, seeing as you have less time to get the public objectives as they become easier to get. By design, the last round is where you're gaining the most points, so it ought to be shorter. I got very sidetracked though, so let's get back to the pieces. The food tokens themselves are alright. I've actually found these amazing food tokens online that I am very tempted to get. The original food tokens are fine, there's nothing wrong with them. But like, come on, look at these ones, they're incredible. Right? Like with how much I play the game, it wouldn't be a bad investment. Lastly, we gotta look at the eggs. You already know what I'm gonna say. I know. You also want to put them in your mouth. Actually, the last time that I taught this game to somebody, they asked me if I had brought chocolate to the board game night so they could... The boards that you play on themselves are also really nice. They all fold neatly into the box. The back are like birdwatching notebook backs that they like fold into the rulebook, the appendix, and all the cards are all linen finished, meaning that they have this really cool feel to them. They're not quite plastic and they're not laminated and they're not in sleeves, but they're very nice. I still want to get card sleeves for them though, because if one bird card gets damaged, I'm just gonna probably explode. The bird watching guide is absolutely amazing. It categorizes every bird by name and by bird power and gives you interesting facts and like groups the birds by these facts. It's so good. All right, on to the ratings. Before I even start with the difficulty, I'm actually going to go over some of the complaints that I have about this game because it works into the difficulty. So, the action cubes that I mentioned earlier, horribly off-brand. I wish they could have done something else to determine turn action. Jess suggested that they could have been little tiny bird feet, which would have been really cool. Or you can be crazy and go online like I did and find that people actually made little wooden pieces that are birds that you play in the game. So you would just put the bird on the furthest right part and then bring it down the tracker. That's awesome. Complaint number 2. At the end of every round, I feel like I've been cut short. Like, if I had one more turn, I could have had a lot more points. This is just an inherent problem with engine building games. The last couple of turns in the game, I always just dedicate to laying eggs because each egg is worth 1 point, so why not just get a bunch of points at the end? Why not, it's gonna be really hard to play food, play a bird, and get more points than you would if you had just laid eggs those 2 or 3 turns. Nothing's gonna beat getting 5 eggs per turn than getting food, playing the bird, laying eggs. You're just not going to get 15 points. The most I can imagine is you get enough food to play a bird that's worth like 8 or 9 points and then lay eggs. But still, you're going to be earning less than if you could mathematically, it's never going to work out. You should always just lay eggs at the very end for as many turns as you can. As long as you have birds that can hold eggs, just get it. It literally is going to win you the game. Complaint number 3, you have to build the dice roll, which makes sense. But it's a little bit more complicated than it looks, and it doesn't quite fit back into the box neatly. There's something about it where the roof of the birdhouse is a little bit more slanted, so you can't quite fit it into the tray that all of the dice roll into, and then fit that in the box without it being a little misangled. Complaint 3.5. The dice tower, while having great table presence and really setting it apart from being just another card game, you have to constantly reach around the back in order to put the dice in because the dice are always going to face towards you. So you constantly have this problem where you're like overextending or going around to the other side of the dice roll or putting them in and then coming back around. Even if it's not just with your hand, it's with your entire body. And that just gets a little complicated. They have these 2 like bird holes in the front. If they had just made it one larger bird hole, like large enough for me to fit dice into, that would have been fine too. I don't know why they did it, it's just a little awkward. Complaint number 4, the public objective card is just another piece of paper. Yes, I know, we've talked about how much I hate easily ruined components before, especially one that every single player is interacting with at least 4 times a game in this scenario. Every other piece in this game is just immaculate and so well made, and they just went ahead and made one of the most popular components, paper. Just laminate it or make it out of board. I mean, come on, the box can already fit that. I mean, there's room to spare inside the box. So why not just make it one more piece of board? Just one. When I say that it's made out of paper, I mean it's still that linen finish, so it's nice and it is technically more durable. You're not gonna rip it or anything like that. I just, again, make it more durable. There's no reason not to. With how often this game sells out, you know that they could have afforded it. One last bit about the bonus board is that it actually has 2 sides. One is a 1 point per requirement met side, and the other side is really competitive with whoever has the most gets more points, and in descending order. I know this was supposed to be a complaint section, but I think that's really cool. I mean, look, even when I'm complaining about the game, I still have to praise it for something. Complaint number 5, last one too. A lot of new players' biggest issue is not realizing that the top row play a bird action is in and of itself its own action. It is sized in such a way at the very top that it isn't clear that it's its own action that does nothing else. They don't realize that when you want to play a bird, that's it, that's all you do. You're just laying down the bird. Otherwise, I'm gonna say that this is a perfect gateway game. And on to the difficulty rating.
Let me smash, please.
No, Ron.
So, anyone who can play Wingspan can really play any other game. Do I recommend that you go from Wingspan to Spirit Island or the 18xx games? Hell no. What? No. I said gateway game, not the board game equivalent to like Ketamine or Crocodile or whatever. So I'm giving Wingspan a 2.5 out of 5 difficulty. Some of this is artificial and just comes from the misunderstanding of not realizing that playing a bird is its own action, or how many eggs you have to play the bird later on in the game. But the game just has so much strategy put on top of it that I just absolutely love it. It has some really nice overall game balancing things, like getting resources passively because of what opponents do, which I've said many times before is not like Mario Party. It keeps you engaged. You don't want to lose a game because you missed out on a free rat token, you know, so that you like couldn't play the bird that you really wanted to play, but you couldn't because there weren't enough turns to get food so you can play that bird for it to be worth the amount of points that it would be instead of just laying eggs. I really can't stress this enough. This really is the perfect entry board game into modern board games. Remember one of my previous videos where I mentioned that once I find a game to compare everything to difficulty-wise, I'm just going to set that as a benchmark, and you can bet your peckle playing ass that I'm going to compare it to everything? Well, this is it. This is the board game. We found it. The gameplay is streamlined, efficient, and fast, even for new players, while at the same time allowing for more experienced players or groups to really make meaningful decisions about what they're going to do. When you could easily just spend 5 minutes a turn thinking about which bird to place when or where, it still remains open and welcoming to players of all difficulty backgrounds. So let's move on to the overall rating. The bird cards are clearly the stars of the game. I've never been bird watching before, let alone ever really interested, but then I played this game. At the end of games that my friends and I are playing, we constantly look at each other's collection and see who has the bird with the biggest wingspan, who has the bird with the smallest wingspan, who has the coolest looking bird collection, or bird fact. My point is that this game is so much fun that the competitive nature just seems to be lessened or gone altogether depending on who you're playing with. The box now comes with a quick start guide to aid new players, a list of all the playtesters and contributors, as well as everything that's supposed to go back inside the box. What? You're saying that sounds familiar? Oh, maybe it's because it hits all 3 of the major points that I was talking about in my Sagrada review when I mentioned the roulette wheel. So on to the actual rating. I am giving Wingspan a 9 out of 10. This is my favorite board game, I'm not gonna lie to you. Every single time I play it, I just have so much fun watching these damn little birds get placed everywhere. I am only giving Wingspan a 9 out of 10 because I have those very small complaints that could easily be fixed, as well as, you know, you guessed it, I'm saving 9.5 and 10 out of 10 in case I come across a game that really starts to blow me away. For sake of overall comparisons, I would say that Wingspan is my favorite and Scythe is my second favorite. I really enjoy both. Personally, I think they're 10 out of 10 experiences. If I'm gonna play a board game, those are the ones I want to. I just know that if they improve on the flaws that I have mentioned in this review and in the Scythe review, they could both be 10 out of 10s for everybody, not just me. Now, I know you're thinking, this is really high, it must be critically acclaimed. It sells out all the time. It does actually. However, some reviews online are really stinky and dumb. Like this guy's review from Germany, which says, totally unbalanced game. Bird cards aren't unique and feel exchangeable. Well, let me tell you something, you smelly goblin. There are 170 unique bird cards in this game. Have you ever seen a bird in real life? They aren't all that different, huh? What are they supposed to have lasers on them so that when you activate their bird powers, they destroy the other birds? Is that what you want? I mean, that'd be kind of cool, but not for a game like this. Oh, I get it. This reviewer is from Germany. That makes sense. He probably feels underrepresented because there aren't a lot of birds from the European area. But wait a minute. Oh, now there is. So, the European expansion, which came out in late 2019, contains 81 new bird cards, all from Europe, bringing the grand total of bird cards to a lot. It has new solo player options. It has new bird effects and mechanics like in between rounds. On your turn, you can turn cards sideways to count as 2 birds. It has a new bird tray. It has new objectives. It has new food tokens and new candy. And, I mean, eggs. It has new eggs. And a score pad. The European expansion really brings this game together. The expansion with the base game is really what makes it a 10 out of 10 for me. The game is perfectly mixed together. I really can't play Wingspan without playing this as well. Every single issue that's brought up with the base game about it getting old, samey, or repetitive is completely abated by the new bird cards that they've introduced. There is an Oceania expansion that's scheduled to come out soon, but has been delayed almost all of 2020 due to all of the Pixar movies' mom's dump truck asses, and definitely not anything else. Nothing else in 2020 would have delayed the release of this game. Alright, drinking time. So, you're probably thinking to yourself, what the hell do you drink when you're bird watching? Well, I actually have the same thought. I wrote this script at 3 a.m. on a weekday, so my weird goblin brain came up with a joke about bush. You know, because even if you make the sound of opening the can in the forest, you would be camouflaged because of the bush. Okay, well, the base game mostly has birds from the Americas, so I'm gonna go with a brand that is based in New York. You know, the most American place I can think of at 3 a.m. Being out in nature watching birds must make you thirsty. Perhaps you want some of that sweet, sweet fruit juice they've been sipping on in the sanctuary that you've built for them. What better or more American than apples? So today, for Wingspan, I am recommending Original Sin's line of ciders. You would definitely have to check the ABV on these bad boys because, honestly, they just taste like fruit juice. My personal favorite is the pineapple one that I have here with me today, but the pear ones and the blackberry ones both slap, and they're also available in 6-packs, and they're definitely favorites of people that I regularly play board games with and have ever recommended these drinks to. The pineapple, the pear, and the blackberry ones are definitely the 3 best and everybody's favorites. However, the Fuji, the Unfiltered, the Original Sin, and the Cuba Libre are all worth checking out. Now, onto the Ko-fi updates. So, the Ko-fi's still going strong. I'm really surprised. You guys have been wonderful supporters. With the new Mambo coming out and reviews for Sagrada and Scythe and now Wingspan, you know, we're doing really well. I hope this doesn't slow down. You guys have been wonderful. We actually had a small issue at the beginning of October where the commissions tab was broken. I tweeted out to Ko-fi for support, and the founder of Ko-fi himself responded to me to tell me that the issue was fixed. This isn't a joke. This isn't like, haha, the CEO of Peggle called. This is like, he actually tweeted at me in response when I tweeted at Ko-fi. It's just been an absolutely wonderful time and a great transition over there. It couldn't have been easier. I know that all of the contributors are really enjoying what I've put up over there, so why don't you go check it out? I think you'll enjoy it too. I leak the board game for the review that I'm doing for every week there all the time, long before these videos ever get published. If you're really antsy or wondering if your board game's coming up, feel free to check it out. You don't even have to be a contributor. Speaking of which, thank you to all my contributors. This was actually the very first commission that we've done, and I'm so glad this person picked a wonderful board game. It was actually my mother's, and I may have moved her to the front of the line because she is my mother, and because this is my favorite board game. Let that be a lesson to you, Beans. Good board games go first. Unless I'm feeling a little saucy. Then you get like Pantone 2 or Peggle or something. Want to be next in line? Check out my Board Game Geek account, link in the description. This way you can see if I have access to your favorite game. You can also check out all of the other games I've reviewed. There's a score for all of the board games I've already reviewed up there, as well as their URL links. In case you don't want to check out the board game playlist or you're looking for one in particular, go ahead and check out the Board Game Geek account. My videos have also recently been added to Board Game Geek's website under their respective games. I've listed them as humor instead of review because I don't want some family that's looking for their new favorite board game to play during family board game night and some children or mom stumbling upon videos where I make jokes about pegging, swearing like a sailor, and recommending alcohol. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this board game review as much as I enjoyed this board game. I hope you get it. Thanks, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh, one more thing. I usually don't like to mention this, and I'll go into a separate video on why I think meeting in person to play board games is wonderful, but due to COVID, I'm just going to go ahead and say this one. There is another tabletop simulator DLC that you can add just for Wingspan that's been added. It is $8. It currently doesn't have great reviews, and I personally have not tried it. I cannot advocate for it, I am just mentioning it. However, if you want to play Wingspan online, you don't have to play Tabletop Simulator. That's just if you already have it. There is Wingspan for Steam. This thing is the coolest thing ever. Aurora actually mentioned this to me, and I could not be more thankful because I really want to play it. I really want to buy it. All of the birds are animated, and when you're waiting for your turn, you can click on the birds and they make their bird-specific bird song. That's insane. I mean, if anybody wants to play it, get it, please let me know. I will download it. Just one person. One person needs to tell me that they downloaded it, and I will play it. That's it. Just tell me that you have it. I will download it, play it with me. This game is so much fucking fun. Thanks. Bye.